Well, before I jump into the heart of this video, I just wanted to say welcome to the channel. And if you haven't already, please think about liking and subscribing to see more videos like this. Today I'm walking around a pavilion at the Epcot theme park in Orlando, Florida. The one today is, it's actually had several names over the years. I'm going to stick with the original name, which is the Living Seas. It's since been rebranded as the Seas, and then again the Seas with Nemo and Friends. And so it's gone through multiple revisions, but at the heart of it, it's mostly the same pavilion throughout this time. The most recent name change, the Seas with Nemo and Friends, obviously they incorporated elements of the Finding Nemo movie into the dark ride. Originally it was just kind of a ride through an aquarium, and they've since added characters from the film. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of them, incorporating intellectual properties into Epcot attractions, but in this case it probably did improve it, because I remember the original ride being kind of boring. It was just basically an omni-mover ride through the aquariums, and there was really no storyline, and it was pretty dull. So I actually think that in this limited case, the Nemo characters did kind of make it more interesting to watch. So how this pavilion is laid out is you first basically ride the dark ride, and then at the end of the dark ride, that's when you get to the full pavilion, which you see me walking around now. If you want to see the dark ride in its entirety, I have a link to that video so you can watch the full dark ride. This particular video, I'm kind of walking around the aquariums. Now, this pavilion originally opened up in January 1986, and like I said, it was originally called the Living Seas. And even though it was built back in the mid-80s, it's still the second largest aquarium in the United States. So this place is huge. The aquariums hold 5.7 million gallons of water. So it's a pretty impressive facility. Now, one of the effects that you originally experienced, but they've actually removed from the attraction, was in the first iteration of the Living Seas, you used to enter these like fake elevators that would take you down to the bottom of the ocean. It was kind of cool. The walls of the elevator were glass, and you would basically go past these fake like coral reefs, and it was just a visual effect. But the whole concept of the original Living Seas was that you were going down to the bottom of the ocean and exploring SeaBase Alpha, which was like this underwater hub, like of the future, where people were living under the ocean. I believe the elevator system was removed when it became the Seas with Nemo and Friends, and now you just basically go immediately to the dark ride and basically experience that instead. They also added this playground based on Bruce the shark, I guess, from Finding Nemo. And, that was something that I think the aquarium lacked when it first opened in '86. There really weren't a lot of things that appealed to kids, especially toddlers. So having, a playground was kind of a smart addition. It's kind of broadening the audience and getting people more engaged with some interactivity. The Living Seas really never was great at interactive displays. I always felt like that's where they fell down compared to other science museums and aquariums. Coming up on the right side is the Turtle Talk show, and this is kind of an interesting attraction because they actually use, I think they use a form of artificial intelligence. They've got an actor who is basically playing Crush from the Finding Nemo movies, and he interacts with the audience. The audience does a bunch of questions and answers, and Crush makes a bunch of jokes, and whatever the actor says, there's computer animation of the turtle projected on the screen in front of the audience. And I believe it's powered by artificial intelligence because it does the animation in real time. I do feel like Turtle Talk is like this underappreciated gem here at Epcot. People just don't talk about it like Soarin' or Frozen. And I get it. It's not an e-ticket attraction. This is kind of like a C-ticket. So for like a little sideshow, it is pretty good. So now I'm kind of walking up to the habitat with Florida manatees. This really was kind of a no-brainer. I'm so happy that Epcot included the manatee area here at the park. when you are building a theme park in Central Florida, it is great to incorporate some of the iconic parts of the state of Florida, and I do feel like the Florida manatee does represent this aquarium very well. And a lot of times, manatees, when they're injured by boating accidents, they can't survive in the wild anymore because they've lost, certain mobility functions. So living in an aquarium is basically saving their lives. And I know a lot of people get upset or uptight about animals and captivity, but something like a manatee, these particular animals can't care for themselves when they get certain types of injuries. So if Disney left these animals in the wild, they would have been dead in a couple weeks. So as you probably noticed, I headed up the escalator. There are 2 levels to the SeaBase, and there's a lot to explore here. I remember coming here as a kid and looking around all these different aquariums and everything, and I remember my dad being kind of pissed with me because I think I spent like 2.5, 3 hours inside the aquarium just because there were so many things to look at. And even though I didn't like this attraction that much as a kid, I still was fascinated by everything that was here. And just seeing the sharks and the manatees and everything, and my eyes just lit up, and I would always lose track of time in those situations. One of the things that I'll talk about now are some of the upcharge tours and activities that are available. For example, when I was walking around the land pavilion, I talked about Behind the Seeds, which is a tour that you can take and basically walk around the greenhouses at the land. Well, here at the Living Seas, you can actually do like a couple different dolphin encounters or swimming in the aquarium, those type of things. Now, I'm really eager to do the one where I swim in the aquarium. Unfortunately, I am not Scuba certified, and to participate with that particular activity, you need your certification. So that's why I haven't actually filmed that for this channel. I don't think you can even bring cameras on that particular experience, so which is a shame. If you check the website, they will tell you which ones you're allowed to film on and which experiences you're not allowed to film. Behind the Seeds, you are allowed to film, but I believe all the experiences here at the Living Seas, cameras are prohibited. This section of the aquarium was always my favorite. There was something about this glass hallway surrounded by this huge observation cylinder. I always thought it was so cool, kind of walking out into the middle of the huge aquarium and just having this observation deck. Now, something I'm going to mention that I didn't film in this video, but is located just off to the side of the Living Seas Pavilion. There's a Coral Reef Restaurant. I think the location is probably better than the food. What's neat about it is it's set up like the rest of this aquarium, where you have this huge glass wall next to the tables where you eat. So the setting is great. Now, this is a table service restaurant, and if you're not familiar with Disney when it comes to the restaurants, the quick service ones are the affordable options. The table service restaurants get kind of pricey, and then they have like a really high-end exclusive restaurants where the prices get insanely expensive, like $100 a plate. The Coral Reef Restaurant's kind of in the middle. It's you're gonna expect to spend $30 to $40 a plate. For a family of like 3 or 4, you easily drop $100 on dinner. And the reality is, it's the same type of meal you get at Red Lobster, only the entrees are $10 to $15 more than what you would pay at Red Lobster. So you're paying extra for the ambiance. The food itself is, it's competent, but nothing to call home about. Truth be told, when I was a kid, I really didn't care for this attraction very much. Aquariums didn't really appeal to me. I was more of a rides person, and like I said, the ride, when it first opened in 1986, it was probably the least compelling ride in Epcot at the time. As I've gotten older, I've grown more and more fond of this attraction. It's now among my favorites because it's retained that 1980s Epcot atmosphere. So this pavilion, along with Spaceship Earth, Living with the Land, those are my favorite attractions at Epcot. And Test Track's up there too. I mean, Test Track is a newer attraction, so I don't lump it in with those 80s style rides, but overall I do appreciate this aquarium a lot more than I did as a kid. You'll notice that this area that I'm walking through it was originally called SeaBase Alpha. Because you don't have that setup with the elevator system anymore, they dropped the Alpha part and it's now just the SeaBase. And despite being built in the mid 1980s, I do think this place still has kind of that futuristic look. I do like that a lot of the aquariums are in round kind of enclosures and cylinders. That's not really common at a lot of the aquariums I've been to. The only other place that I've ever seen those cylinder aquariums, the round ones, are the SeaLife aquariums that are throughout the world. They did do a good job with a lot of the lighting. They have that moodiness. There's a lot of the aquariums that are darkened with the low lights, and the bright light sources actually coming from the aquarium themselves. It does give it that underwater sea base feeling. Thanks for joining me on this walking tour of the living seas here at Epcot. If you enjoyed this episode of The Adventure Schmuck, don't forget to like and subscribe.